Hey guys, John V here from PhoneArena. Right now you're watching our video review of the Samsung ATIV Odyssey for Verizon Wireless. It's available right now. You can pick it up for $50, a tier contract, and it's actually the very first Windows Phone 8 device from Samsung's camp for Verizon Wireless, so it's pretty neat for that aspect. On top of that, it features a 4-inch WVGA Super AMOLED panel. You have 4G Lte Connectivity and also a dual-core processor, so it seems like it has a lot of value for $50, but we're going to find out exactly how much so. So what's there to say about the ATIV Odyssey's design? Well, it's more the same typical Samsung mid-range device, constructed out of plastic all around, a little bit slick because of the glossy feel to it. It kind of emulates a metallic finish in the back, but it is indeed plastic. Decent weight, very compact of course, and the construction's okay, not the most solid thing out there. It doesn't really stand out much for its design, just because it follows in line with other previous Samsung Windows phones we've seen in the past. There's nothing really too spectacular about the handset's display. It's a 4-inch WVGA Super AMOLED panel, so its resolution stands at 480 by 800 pixels, which produces a pixel density of 233 pixels per inch. Now, it does utilize the Pentel matrix arrangement. It doesn't really make for the best details, just because details can be rather garbled looking from the zoomed out view in the web browser, so you gotta really do a lot of pinch gestures just to draw out some of those details. But regardless of that, some people will still appreciate it for its vivid colors, its exceptional viewing angles, but its outdoor visibility is still hampered a little bit just because it's not the best. You're going to have to shield it away from the sun, but aside from that, it's still a very attractive looking thing. Naturally, being a Windows phone at all, it features the usual set of Windows capacitive buttons below its display, and they're spaced far away from one another to reduce any accidental presses. Above the display, we spot its earpiece, its proximity light sensors, and a 1.2 megapixel front-facing camera. Along the left edge of the phone, you have the volume control key, and you also have the micro SD card slot, which is hidden behind the plastic flap. While on the right side, you have the dedicated power button and the shutter key. Luckily, all the buttons are well sized, have good feedback, and very distinctive. And finally, in the rear, you have the 5 megapixel autofocus camera with an LED flash. It has the ability to shoot 1080p videos. Both the 3.5mm headset jack and noise cancellation microphone are found in the top edge. While fittingly, we find the microphone and the micro USB port for charging data connectivity all along the bottom edge. Prying off the back cover, we actually gain access to its 2100 mAh battery and its micro SIM slot. The Samsung ATIV Odyssey is actually the first Windows Phone 8 device from Samsung to hit Verizon Wireless, and honestly it doesn't really differentiate itself from any other Windows Phone device out there. It's running Windows Phone 8. Of course, you have the fancy live tiles here at the home screen. You could resize them to three different shapes if you want, a small, large, and medium. But beyond that, nothing really new. And honestly, it pales in comparison to the software enhancements that you find with Nokia's Windows Phone 8 devices. You could tell with the software listing here, it's pretty much as generic as you can get, and doesn't even offer something like a Samsung hub, which we've seen in the past with Samsung's Windows phones. Powering the ATIV Odyssey is a dual-core 1.5 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 Plus processor with 1 GB of RAM, and you can tell seeing that this is a Windows Phone 8 device. It maintains the same performance as other handsets we've seen, so it's very quick and responsive. Fluidity is nice, it rarely lags, even for more complex things like gaming. If you're multitasking, switching between open applications, it's pretty effective and quick in that aspect. We really can't complain about the messaging experience here, just because it pretty much follows in line with other Windows Phone 8 devices out there. Same keyboard layout, very responsive and quick, though the size of the screen might be a little bit difficult for some people just because they might feel it to be a little bit on the cramped side, but luckily in landscape it's not a problem at all. So on top of being Verizon's first Samsung device with Windows Phone 8, it's also the first 4G LTE Samsung Windows device for Verizon. So you have fast data speeds both up and down. And of course, Internet Explorer is fantastic just because the experience and the performance is the same on any other Windows Phone 8 device we've checked out. Very quick in keeping up pace. Rendering is good too. And of course, it has some really good navigational controls. Of course, the music player is nothing too new here. It's the same exact thing we've seen before on any Windows Phone 8 device. As far as the audio quality of its speaker, nothing really too stellar about it either. It produces some average volume tones with minimal distortion. Not surprisingly, the handset runs high-definition videos, no problems at all. The one we have here is encoded in DivX 1920 by 1080 resolution, so it's moving exceptionally fast, no slowdown whatsoever. And of course, that vividness and the saturation with the colors with the display really helps to actually make it a very pleasant experience. As long as you're taking photos outdoors with plenty of lighting, its 5-megapixel autofocus camera will produce some pleasant looking shots, though it tends to have a lot of over-sharpening and details aren't quite the best. There's also a noticeable saturation with its color reproduction. Indoors under low lighting though, you tend to notice a lot more graininess, softer details, but the LED flash does a good job of illuminating the scenery. At the same time, its 1080p high-definition video recording quality is also acceptable. Not the most superb thing we've seen on a smartphone, but more than usable. It moves at 29 frames per second. Details are average. It tends to over-sharpen, of course, just like with photos. And we do notice just a tiny bit of artifacting, but it's only prevalent when you're panning very quickly. Call quality with the Samsung ATIV Odyssey is actually surprisingly good. Both ends of the line, voices are clear, distinctive, with no background distortion. The earpiece itself produces a very strong volume output, so easily audible. The only thing we notice is that there's a subtle amount of muffling going on when you use a speakerphone at the loudest volume setting. Thankfully, we didn't come across any issues when it comes to Lte Connectivity, especially indoors. It actually maintains a steady connection, and during our time using the handset, we didn't experience any dropped phone calls. Likewise, with its battery life, we're kind of impressed too, just because being LTE, we're able to get close to the 20-hour mark before it completely is dead. It's not something you want to charge constantly whenever you get a chance, but luckily, you'll get by through a solid workday with no issues. So here's the thing, the Samsung ATIV Odyssey is a good Windows Phone 8 device. At $50 2-year contract, it's very budget friendly too, but when you know that the Nokia Lumia 822 is priced the same, but it features some better software enhancements than this guy, you get more value with that handset, so it's really hard to like the Samsung ATIV Odyssey knowing that in the back of your mind. So if you'd like to learn more about this device, guys, you could check out our website, PhoneArena.com. It's John V. Thanks for watching.